Bonjour, welcome back to another video from French with Basu. Pronouns are very important to learn in French, as I always tell my students that in French grammar, verbs and tenses are of highest priority. Then comes pronouns. There are many types of pronouns which make you sound more natural when you use them in your sentences. I, as a non-native speaker, faced difficulty when I was first trying to communicate with French people, and the last thing I faced problems with was pronouns. Once I mastered it by practicing, I felt quite confident about my spoken skills in French. Where to place the pronouns in the sentence is something which we all face problems with. And in this video, I am going to teach you object pronouns, pronoun I and pronoun on, and where and how to use them. Roughly, a sentence has three parts: sujet, verb, objet. A subject is like the head of Doraemon. A verb is like the heart of Doraemon, without which a sentence can't survive. An object is like the limbs of Doraemon, without which a sentence can still survive. What is a pronoun? A pronoun is a word or a group of words that is used instead of a noun or a noun phrase. We can replace a subject, that is the head of Doraemon, with subject pronouns, which you may have already learned. I discussed on subject pronouns in my earlier videos. Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il, elle. These are the subject pronouns which can be used to replace a noun or nouns. For example, in this sentence, John joue au cricket. John is the subject. I can replace it with il. Il joue au cricket. So, a subject pronoun can replace a subject in a sentence. Now we need to understand the object part. There are many kinds of compléments in French grammar, but we will only discuss three types of compléments objet which are relevant here. Complément objet direct, complément objet indirect, and complément circonstanciel. These are the only three types of complément objet which we will need to know here. John mange ce biscuit. In this sentence, ce biscuit is the object. When an object doesn't start with a preposition, especially when an object doesn't start with the preposition a or its derivatives such as o, a la, al apostrophe, o, we call that kind of an object a direct object or COD. Here, ce biscuit is a direct object or COD because it's not starting with the preposition a. Ria donne le stylo à son frère. In this sentence, le stylo à son frère is the object portion, but that contains two types of different objects. Le stylo is a direct object because it's not starting with the preposition a or its derivatives. But à son frère is the indirect object because it's starting with the preposition a. An indirect object or COE always starts with an a preposition or its derivatives such as o, a la, al apostrophe, and o. Now, what is c'est or complément circonstanciel? They specify the circumstances of the action expressed by the verb. It expresses when, how, or where. For example, en 2024, j'apprendrai le français. Elle marche lentement. Il habite dans un château. En 2024 expresses time. It expresses when. Lentement expresses the fashion or way. It expresses how. And dans un château expresses the place or where. These are compléments circonstanciels or CC. It was just a very basic concept on COD, COE and CC. Let's just keep our lesson short and easy. I hope you can now distinguish the COD and COE in the sentences. Here are some very basic and easy examples on the screen. Elle a quitté son pays. Rima et Lima vont envoyer ce livre à leurs parents. Elle donne la fleur au bébé. Ils donneront le parapluie à la pauvre femme. Now finally we can learn object pronouns. What are the object pronouns? Remember, the limbs of Doraemon are like the objects of a sentence. The objects are always optional. The objects may or may not be present in a sentence. The pronouns which can be used to replace an object are called object pronouns. These are the object pronouns or pronoun, complément, objet, or simply pronom objet in French. Table 1. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce, le, la, les, lui, leur, i, en. Then comes the verb, le verbe. When you have time in hand, pause it and note exactly how I am displaying the table 1 on screen and memorize them in sequence. Then life will be easy, I promise. If you memorize this table 1, 97% of time you will be able to use perfect object pronouns in French. So pause it, memorize them, one after another. Then tell me when you are ready. Excellent! Look at these 11 football players. Ce is an extra player. If this twin brother Ce gets injured, he will jump in. In this table, I have kept all object pronouns together, pronom COD and pronom COI and pronom complément adverbial. Let's now try to discuss in detail table 1 of object pronouns. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce. These can be used as pronom COD or pronom COI. That means these can be used as both direct object pronouns or indirect object pronouns. Le, la, les. These can be used only as pronom COD. That means these are direct object pronouns. They can only replace a direct object or COD. Lui and leur. These can be used only as pronom COI. That means these are indirect object pronouns. They can only replace an indirect object or COI. E and en are from different universe. They are from slightly different family called pronom complément adverbial, or sometimes they are used to replace a complément circonstanciel. We will talk about them soon. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce. When they are used as pronom COD, their meanings will be me, you, oneself, us, you, oneselves. When they are used as pronom COI, their meanings will be to me, to you, to oneself, to us, to you, and to oneselves. Le, la, les. They are direct object pronouns. Le means him or it. La means her or it. Les means them or those. Lui and leur are indirect pronouns. Lui means to him or to her or to it. Leur means to them or to those. All these object pronouns in table 1 come before the verb in almost any kind of sentence, even in an interrogative sentence. I wanted to talk about the special accord or agreement of avoir verb in this video, but I want to keep the video as short and as easy as possible. So in future, I will teach what happens if a direct object precedes a verb conjugated in a composed tense. Before we talk about E and O, let's check out some examples on how to use these object pronouns in a sentence. Elle donne la fleur. La fleur is a direct object because it is not starting with the preposition a or any derivative of the preposition a. So it is a direct object. We will use a direct object pronoun to replace this direct object. So elle la donne. La replaces la fleur. La is a direct object pronoun. Il cherche son portable. Son portable is a direct object. Why? Because it is not starting with the preposition a or any of its derivatives. So we will use a direct object pronoun to replace this direct object. Il le cherche. Le means it. Le replaces the direct object son portable. Lila téléphone à son mari. À son mari is an indirect object. Why? Because it is starting with the preposition à. And we will use lui as an indirect object pronoun to replace that indirect object. Lila lui téléphone. Tina envoie la lettre à ses parents. Here we have two kinds of objects. La lettre, which is a direct object which is not starting with the preposition à, and à ses parents is an indirect object which is starting with the preposition à. Tina la leur envoie. According to table 1, la comes before and leur comes later. These two pronouns came before the verb according to the sequence which you learned in table 1. Tina la leur envoie. In one sentence, we can sometimes see more than one pronouns and always they will follow the sequence of the table. Elle donne la fleur au bébé. La fleur is a direct object and au bébé is an indirect object because au bébé starts with the preposition à or any of its derivative. Au, à la, à l'apostrophe, au. These all are the derivatives of preposition à. So, au bébé starts with au. That's why this is an indirect object and we will use an indirect object pronoun to replace it. We have used lui instead of au bébé. And both the object pronouns have been placed before the verb as per the table 1. In table 1, all object pronouns come before the verb. All object pronouns come before the verb. Elle la lui donne. Why la before? La comes before and lui comes after, according to the sequence of table 1. Elle a quitté son pays. Son pays is a direct object because it is not starting with the preposition à or any of its derivative. Son pays is masculine singular, so we had used le, but as à is a vowel, we had to do elision. That's why L apostrophe. There can be small changes of the placement of object pronouns from tense to tense. That you have to learn by going through examples and exercises. Rima et Lima vont envoyer ce livre à leurs parents. Ce livre is a direct object which is replaced by le and à leurs parents is replaced by leur, and both the object pronouns are placed before the verb envoyer. Look at the tense futur proche. So in futur proche we are placing the object pronouns before the infinitive verb. As I have mentioned earlier, from tense to tense the placement of the object pronouns will vary. Ils donneront le parapluie à la pauvre femme. Ils le lui donneront. Le replaces le parapluie, the direct object, and lui replaces the indirect object. À la pauvre femme. Ils le lui donneront. Now let's learn the pronoun I. I has a good friendship with the preposition à and all its family members. O, à la, à l'apostrophe, and o. I helps you to replace an object in a sentence which is talking about a place. This kind of complément circonstanciel starts with prepositions like à and its derivatives like o, à la, à l'apostrophe, o, or any other prepositions only except de or its derivatives. For example, il habite dans un château. Dans un château is talking about a place. So, it can be replaced by pronoun I. Il y habite. Ses livres sont sur la table. Sur la table talks about a place and it can be replaced by pronoun I. Ses livres y sont. So, any object that talks about a place starting with a preposition except de or its derivatives can be replaced by the pronoun I. Let's discuss a very special case of pronoun I. To replace an object starting with a or its derivatives, which refers to a thing or a notion, we use the pronoun e. Remember, a thing or a notion, not a person. Pronoun e can be used with these verbs: penser à, songer à, croire à, tenir à, renoncer à, recourir à, faire attention à, rêver à, réfléchir à, assister à, etc. For example, elle pense à son pays. Here, in this object, starting with a preposition, pay is not a person and penser verb is used. So, it meets all criteria of pronoun e. We can replace it with e. Elle y pense. But if you say elle pense à sa mère, in this sentence, penser verb is used. The object is starting with a. But mère is not a thing. It's a person. So we can't use the pronoun e to replace it. We can say elle pense à elle. We had to use a pronoun tonic to replace mère, but the point is we can't use the pronoun e to replace a person in the object. Only a thing or a notion can be replaced by pronoun e. I hope I made it pretty clear, and it happens usually with the verbs I mentioned, most popularly with penser verb. Before I move on to the pronoun en, make sure you hit that subscribe button and press a thumbs up. That would encourage me to keep up with my work. It takes many dedicated hours, weeks of hard work to make each video. Sometimes it takes months of work because I am still working full time at a private university. And don't forget to leave your comments under my video after watching it till the end. Alright, let's learn how to use the pronoun en. En has a good friendship with the preposition de and all its derivatives like du, de la, de l apostrophe and de. En is very easy to learn. Whenever an object starts with the preposition de or its derivatives such as le génitif de l'article défini du, de la, de l apostrophe or de, or if an object starts with les articles partitifs du, de la, de l apostrophe, de, that object can be replaced by en. Tu manges des chocolats. Tu en manges. Des chocolats is replaced by en because des chocolats is starting with l'article partitif. Elle vient du Japon. Elle en vient. Du Japon is replaced by the pronoun en because du Japon is starting with le génitif de l'article défini. Elle parle de ton ami. Elle en parle. De ton ami is replaced by en because de ton ami is starting with the preposition de. Here's another example with expressions with de preposition such as avoir besoin de. Elle a besoin du support. Elle en a besoin. I have replaced each of these objects with en. Isn't it very simple? Secondly, if an object starts with a number, that object can be replaced with en. For example, elle a 3 stylos. Elle en a 3. Je voudrais un café, s'il vous plaît. J'en voudrais un, s'il vous plaît. In each of the sentences, the object is starting with a number. I have replaced the object with the pronoun en and placed the object pronoun before the verb as usual, but the number is written after the verb. Thirdly, if an object starts with an expression of quantity, the object pronoun en can be used to replace that object. For example, beaucoup de, assez de, trop de, peu de, un petit peu de, un tas de, 1 kilo de, 3 litres de, 5 bouteilles de, 4 paquets de, etc. For example, il y a beaucoup de musées à Paris. Il y en a beaucoup à Paris. Elle a acheté 3 kilos de sucre. Elle en a acheté 3 kilos. John veut 5 bouteilles de vin. John en veut 5 bouteilles. In all these examples, the objects are starting with an expression of quantity and all of them are replaced by pronoun en. And the expression of quantity is written at the end, that is, after the verb. Observe carefully these examples. Let's once again take a look at the table 1. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce, le, la, les, lui, leur, I, on. Then comes the verb. And from tense to tense, the placement of the pronoun may vary. That can only be completely understood when you will practice the exercises. I will provide some links of exercises in the description below. Without practicing again and again the exercises on pronouns, you can never expect yourself to master French pronouns. I hope my exercises will help you to master the pronouns. Before I move on, make sure you hit that subscribe button and press a thumbs up. That would encourage me to keep up with my work. It takes many dedicated hours, weeks of hard work to make each video. Sometimes it takes months of work because I am still working full time at a private university. And don't forget to leave your comments under my video after watching it till the end. Let's now learn table 2 of object pronouns. Verb. Le, la, les, nous, vous, leur, moi or M', toi or T', lui, I, on. This table is not so easy to find in most grammar books or in most websites or videos. Whoever of my students learned object pronouns by these two tables, they mastered object pronouns pretty fast. Pause the video and note down the table 2 of object pronouns, which is very important. You can see the placements of the pronouns are changed. All the pronouns will come after the verb, not before the verb. Me and te have turned into moi and toi. And before a vowel there will be M' and T'. Meanings and uses of these pronouns are similar to the first table, so I will not waste any time telling you the same meanings. This table is valid only for the sentences which are written in impératif, affirmatif form. If you wish, you may check out my tutorial on impératif. The link is always in the description. Impératif form expresses an order, a request, a suggestion, a demand, a command, a threat, etc. For example, ferme la porte, ouvre la fenêtre, allez au magasin s'il vous plaît, va au marché, donnez-moi des fleurs, envoyez les lettres aux parents, montrez le bateau à nous. All these sentences are imperative, that means order, request or suggestions. And all these sentences are in affirmative form, not in the negative form. I repeat, table 2 only applies with a sentence which is in imperative affirmative form. Ne ferme pas la porte, n'ouvre pas la fenêtre, etc. These sentences are not in affirmative, so they will follow as usual table 1. So let's see how these affirmative sentences will look after replacing the objects with object pronouns according to table 2. Ferme la porte, ferme-la. Ouvre la fenêtre, ouvre-la. Allez au magasin s'il vous plaît, allez-y s'il vous plaît. Va au marché, vas-y. Donnez-moi des fleurs, donnez-moi. Envoyez les lettres aux parents, envoyez les leurs. Montrez le bateau à nous, montrez-le nous. Observe very well how hyphens are used only between a verb and the object pronouns. Observe that according to that table 2, the pronouns have come after the verb, not before the verb. Observe how moi has become M' before the vowel. In the fourth sentence, aller verb is conjugated in Q form, impératif, but when you use I or A pronouns after aller verb, to form, in table 2, VA will become VAS. I am giving a few questions to end the video. Pause the video and complete. Answers will be shown on the screen. Les réponses. I have come to the end of the video. If you have queries or doubts, ask me in the comments. I I will try to respond there. And if you have liked my video, press the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to French with Basu and share your valuable comments under the video. Thank you for watching till the end. Bonne continuation. La langue française, c'est très facile. See you in my next video.